A lone figure sits hunched in a dark room, the glow of a monitor casting a stark blue light on their form. For this person, there was only one reason for living: to become strong in that other world. Inside that world, a fierce warrior with fiery red hair roars in defiance. He has finally reached this point, facing the Labyrinth King, Pharaoh. With a fist wreathed in flame, he declares that this is the end. Back in the darkened room, his real hands move with frantic precision over a controller. He had dedicated all his time to this single moment, all for the purpose of becoming the strongest. His avatar's fist, a blur of motion and power, surges forward. With a final determined clench, he unleashes his ultimate technique, the Phoenix Fist. The aura erupts, striking the skeletal king down. The Labyrinth King Pharaoh is defeated. The warrior, now standing calmly with his brown hair tied back, looks on as other players express their amazement. They remark that he is truly the Fist King, having defeated a foe no one else could with his bare hands. This world was a Vermorp called Versus Online, a place of fantasy and adventure. Within this game, he had become something of a legend. He had chosen the fist, considered the weakest weapon, and through relentless training, he achieved his goal of defeating every single boss in the game, just before the game service was scheduled to end. His mission complete, he calmly accesses the system menu. It's time to log out. With a sigh of relief, the player removes his VR headset. His face is gaunt, his hair matted with sweat, but a faint smile plays on his lips. He made it just in time. He collapses backward, the virtual reality headset flying from his head. His strength is utterly gone, his body giving out after the final victory. Lying on the floor, his consciousness fading, he realizes with a grim clarity that he hasn't eaten properly in about 2 weeks, having dedicated everything to the game. He wonders if this is how he dies. Yet, having achieved his goal, he feels no regrets. As darkness envelopes him, a faint sensation pulls at him, a feeling of being lifted up. His fading senses are shattered by a loud voice. A young man with bright hair leans over him, his face a mask of frantic energy, shouting for him to wake up. He sits up disoriented. He doesn't recognize the person in front of him or the place he's in. The young man ignores his confusion, simply telling him to hurry up and get ready. As he tries to make sense of his surroundings, the young man, Kanzuya, calls out to their father, announcing that he's finally awake. The name stirs a flicker of recognition, but the location remains a mystery. His gaze drifts past his brother, and he sees them, his mother and father, looking exactly as he remembers them from years ago. He realizes with a jolt that he is in his parents' house. The thought is impossible. He stumbles to a nearby sink, splashing water on his face, his mind reeling. He left this home over 10 years ago. This can't be real. He lifts his head and stares into the mirror above the sink. His eyes widen in sheer, unadulterated shock at the reflection staring back at him. His mind screams in denial. He's supposed to be 30 years old, but the face in the mirror is his own from his teenage years. The horrifying truth crashes down on him. Somehow, this is him. His scream seems to have gone unnoticed as his family watches a news broadcast. The report details an ongoing monster subjugation in Shinjuku, Tokyo. His brother remarks on the recent increase in monster appearances, but their father calmly states that the Adventurers Guild is in charge and everything will be fine. He stumbles back, utterly bewildered. He asks his parents what they could possibly be talking about, as the broadcast mentions that adventurers of rank 3 and above are being assembled from every prefecture. The broadcast cuts to a terrifying close-up of the creature's eye, as a voice speculates on its origin, questioning if it escaped from a training ground. The full beast is then revealed. An enormous evil boar, a monster whose steel-piercing tusks are a valuable commodity, rampaging through the city ruins. His brother shivers, remarking how scary it is. The reality crashes down on the young man. Monsters are real in this world. He retreats to his room, his mind reeling. As he enters the familiar space, his eyes fall upon a pamphlet on his desk, an enrollment guide for the Shizuoka Prefectural Swordsman, First Middle School. He picks it up, his confusion deepening. The guide details courses in swordsmanship, magic, and support roles. He can't believe a school like this, something straight out of game, could exist in Japan. Closing the guide, he understands there is much to confirm. In this world, it seems one must attend a special school to learn how to fight monsters, and he is apparently about to enroll. He still doesn't know the reason he was brought here, but a new resolve begins to form. A determined smile spreads across his face. He realizes he can fight here, just as he did in the game. He resolves to become the Fist King once more. His ambition takes flight, soaring across the vast, new landscape of this other world, a world where dragons command the skies. He looks at his phone with a determined smirk, his mind already racing. With this new reality confirmed, he knows his first priority. He reaches for the device, ready to gather intelligence on this world. His search leads him to information about the Swordsman Middle School. He learns it's a prestigious institution for adventurers with a 3-year program. As he scrolls, he's shocked to see that the goal of the Swordsman course is to master the skill Bash LV5. The school's curriculum outlines the core skills for each course. The Swordsman course aims for Bash LV5, the Magic course for Fire Arrow LV5, and a support course for Heal LV5 and Cure LV1. A horrifying realization strikes him. These are the exact same beginner skills from the game he used to play. If this world shares the same settings, it means students spend 3 entire years just to learn the absolute basics. The thought crushes his spirit. He collapses onto his bed, groaning that he doesn't want to go to school if there's no point to it. Lying there, another memory from the game surfaces. He recalls being able to call up an icon to view his character's information. He wonders aloud how he might check his stats and other attributes in this world. He sits up with a jolt, his face contorted with desperate hope, and bellows the familiar command, "Status. Open." His shouting echoes through the house, startling his brother, who rushes in and tells him to be quiet. Undeterred, he continues to yell the command, trying different variations, wondering if the wording is simply different here. The commotion draws his mother into the room. He hesitantly asks her if she knows how to open his status. She understands immediately, clarifying that he must mean the skill sheet. She hands him a document, explaining that he must submit it at the entrance ceremony and warning him not to lose it. He held the skill sheet, his hands trembling slightly as he wondered what abilities it would reveal. His eyes scanned the document, taking in the diagram of his stats. The results were underwhelming. His only acquired skill was stamina recovery up, and his weapon proficiencies were dismally low. His father peered at the sheet and remarked on the results. Kazuya confirmed his disappointment aloud, stating that he only possessed a single skill, stamina recovery up. The reality of his situation crashed down on him. His weapon proficiencies were far too low. A wave of panic washed over him as he realized that with stats like these, even getting into middle school seemed impossible. His father, however, remained calm, assuring him that it was not a hopeless situation. He reminded Kazuya that attending school was precisely for learning more skills and encouraged him to do his best. The encouragement did little to quell his inner turmoil. An image of his former self, the mighty Fist King, flashed through his mind. He understood that even if the world's rules were the same, his current abilities were those of a novice. The dream of becoming the Fist King felt impossibly distant. He turned back to his father, his voice heavy with resignation. He explained that with his current power level, he wouldn't even be able to defeat the weakest monsters, making the prospect of clearing dungeons or facing powerful bosses utterly unthinkable. In a world filled with monsters, dungeons, skills, and magic, a young man clenches his fist in frustration. He feels utterly weak and questions whether it's even possible for him to grow stronger. Suddenly, a hand rests on his shoulder. It's his father, who asks what he's muttering about, reminding him that even attending school is part of his journey. He smiles reassuringly, telling his son that it's okay. Admitting his own weakness, he explains, is the very first step toward becoming stronger. The boy looks up, his expression filled with a mix of surprise and hope. His father's voice is firm as he promises that from this day forward, he will grow much, much stronger. His hand tightens into a fist again, this time not in frustration, but in gratitude. He whispers a quiet, heartfelt thank you with renewed resolve shining in his eyes. He looks forward and declares aloud, I'll get stronger. His father nods in approval and hands him a flyer for a training hall that is having its grand opening. He tells his son to go there, starting the next day. Arriving at the bustling training hall, the young man is completely awestruck. He exclaims that it's like a world from a game, his excitement palpable. An instructor announces that rental weapons are free for those 15 and under, and the boy eagerly grabs a baseball bat, feeling incredibly high. Inside, he sees other adventurers training. The instructor explains that beginners practice with a wooden log and shows him his skill sheet. He notes that, ordinarily, a swordsman should only be able to acquire sword-related skills. He stares at his own skill sheet, a look of intense focus on his face. He realizes that his sheet includes gun-type skills, a combination that should be completely impossible to possess alongside his other abilities. He considered his options. In this world, while job classifications existed, there were no rigid, game-like restrictions on acquiring skills. With that freedom, he knew exactly which ability he needed to learn in the shortest time possible. His path was clear. If he could raise his proficiency with both maces and healing magic, he should be able to unlock a physical ability boost. He clenched his teeth, convinced he could learn it. And so he began. 8 grueling hours later, he was still relentlessly striking a training log, chanting the word heal over and over. The effort left him panting, his hands scraped and bleeding. He whispered the incantation one more time, thinking that simply praying for it wasn't enough. But then, his eyes widened in surprise. A soft glow enveloped his hands. He stared down in astonishment as he realized the bleeding had stopped. He had done it. He could use heal. Examining his palm, he saw the skin mending itself. Though he noted the spell's power seemed limited, unable to heal the wounds completely. Reflecting on the past 8 hours, he realized he'd swung the mace far more than his stamina should have allowed. He concluded that he must have completely run out of mana. A week later, his training continued. The instructor advised him not to push himself too hard, and he agreed. His mana capacity was certainly an issue, but his next goal was set, acquiring the physical ability boost. His relentless dedication drew the attention of others in the training hall. A small group watched him, remarking that the kid was back again, wailing on that log for over 8 hours a day. One recalled that he had done the same thing last week, training until closing time. It was, they agreed, as if he were possessed. Their words didn't reach him. His face shrouded in shadow, a fierce intensity in his eyes. He focused on his purpose. He wondered what in the world he was doing all this for, knowing that over the past week, he had become certain of something crucial. He stood at the training grounds, a new certainty solidifying in his mind. This world was structured by game-like settings, which meant the knowledge he had gained from playing could be used here. With this new understanding, he set his next goal, to raise his mace proficiency to level 10. He had already successfully learned the physical ability boost, allowing him to swing a mace at full power for an entire hour. As he trained, he felt the intense gaze of a young woman with long, reddish-brown hair watching him. His attention shifted to the girl, who was holding a wooden sword. He wondered if the man beside her was her father. Nearby, he overheard other trainees mention that her dad just plays games all the time, a fact that resonated with him. Growing tired of simply smashing things, he decided to try a different approach to his training, making a sculpture. The pair took notice of him. The father commented with a smile that a mace was an interesting choice of weapon. The girl, however, simply thought to herself that he was a weird kid. They continued to watch as he swung his weapon at a wooden block. The father remarked that it just looked like he was playing around, but his daughter saw something more in the boy's relentless practice. She saw past the clumsy swings and recognized the look in his eyes. They were the eyes of someone seriously dedicated to their goal. This dedication, she realized, would make him stronger, as he clearly didn't care what anyone else thought. She watched him struggle, shouting advice to try swinging without tensing up. Another week passed, and his grueling training continued without pause. His practice had evolved from simple swings to intricate carving. With a look of fierce concentration, he chipped away at a piece of wood, shaping it into the form of a roaring beast. But the delicate work proved too much for the crude tool. The sculpture shattered just as it neared completion. He cried out in frustration, lamenting that it had broken yet again. His frustration boiled over. He threw his tools, yelling that he couldn't finish a single piece after a week of trying and questioning if his mace proficiency was even increasing. From a distance, the girl watched him again. Seeing his relentless effort despite the repeated failures, she felt a competitive fire ignite within her. She couldn't lose either. Her gaze remained fixed on him as he resolved to change his practice method, wishing he could simply view his status to gauge his progress. As he contemplated his next move, a sudden commotion broke his concentration. He looked up in alarm, recognizing the girl from the other day, just as a heavy log began rolling directly towards him. He lunged forward in a panic, desperately shouting a warning to watch out. His cry reached the swordswoman, who turned with a look of confusion, not yet understanding the danger. Before she could react, the massive log was upon her, and she let out a scream. But the protagonist's warning was not for her. With a manic grin, he roared for the log to be smashed. He swung his mace with all his might, connecting with the rolling log in a tremendous explosion of force. Dark, jagged energy erupted from the point of impact, shattering the wood. He stared in disbelief at the aftermath, utterly stunned by the power he had just unleashed. The destructive energy tore through the space where the log had been, narrowly missing the swordswoman, who stood frozen amidst the flying splinters. She looked on, her initial fear replaced by sheer astonishment at the display of power. He, too, was processing what had just happened. Looking down at his mace, he understood. The power, the attack range, it was unmistakable. He had unlocked Bash, the skill acquired at mace level 5. He realized with a jolt of excitement that his mace proficiency must have increased, which meant all his grueling training hadn't been for nothing. His elation quickly shifted as he turned his attention to the young woman he had just saved. With a slightly flustered expression, he reached out a hand, asking if the pretty lady was all right. She simply stared back, thinking to herself that he was just as strange as she'd expected. At the training grounds, a young woman with a high ponytail approaches Kazuya, offering him a canned drink. She introduces herself as Karen Tanya, explaining that she'll be a third year at the same middle school he'll be starting in April. She tells him it's nice to meet him and offers her help if he ever finds himself in trouble, which leaves the younger boy flustered. She then admits, to his complete surprise, that she has been wanting to speak with him for a while. She explains that she's seen him at the grounds every day, relentlessly striking a log with a club for hours, making him something of a local celebrity. Karen points out that the skill he's practicing, Bash, normally takes 3 years to learn in school, yet he was able to use it before even starting. Kazuya is shocked to hear this, admitting that today was the first time he'd ever been able to use it successfully, but concedes that it must be the result of all his hard work. He then asks her if she knows of any other places where he could practice swinging a mace with all his might, adding that it would need to be free. Karen considers this, replying that she needs to step up her own game as well. His financial concerns were not unfounded. A conversation with a local shopkeeper reveals Kazuya has been buying training logs with his allowance, a practice that is becoming difficult to afford. This financial strain is on his mind as he looks over a list of rental items at the training hall. He realizes with frustration that he can't get stronger if he's broke. The instructor nearby notes that while the rentals are cheap, the costs certainly add up over time, sparking an idea in Kazuya's mind. Seeing his dilemma, Karen proposes a radical alternative, asking him how he feels about slaying monsters. She immediately shows him a slime habitat list for the prefecture on her phone. She points out a slime nest in a forest in the next town, suggesting that since he can use Bash, he would be perfectly safe taking them down. His eyes widen with intense focus. He marvels at the thought, realizing that something he's only ever done in games to level up and earn gold is now a real possibility. As they sit together, Karen gives him a final piece of advice. Make sure to go with a parent or guardian, and be careful not to venture too far, or he might run into dangerous horned rabbits. Taking her advice to heart, he ventures into the forest. With a tremendous surge of power, his attack connects, obliterating a slime in a violent burst of energy. He brings his club down with a satisfying crunch, obliterating the slime in a single decisive blow. A wide, triumphant grin spreads across his face as he roars in exhilaration. This is absolutely awesome. His excitement stems from a recent realization. He could gain real combat experience, level up his skills, and even earn money all at once. It was as he'd thought, 3 birds with 1 stone. He remembers the training hall instructor questioning if he was sure he needed the club for this endeavor. 2 hours later, his efforts have paid off. He sits by a stream, holding a large bag filled to the brim with slime cores. He muses that a 100% drop rate is quite nice. Since this was just a scouting trip, he decides this is enough for now and prepares to head home. As he begins his trek back, he makes a mental note to get a bigger, sturdier bag for his next hunt. His thoughts are interrupted by a sudden rustle in the bushes ahead, and he stops, turning his head with a questioning look. The source of the noise emerges, a horned rabbit. He identifies it immediately, a wave of unease washing over him as he realizes he must have ventured a little too deep into the woods. Without warning, the creature charges. It closes the distance in an instant, a blur of white fur and sharp horn. He grunts, bracing for impact. He reacts instinctively, swinging his club in a wide, horizontal arc to meet the rabbit's ferocious assault head-on. But the rabbit's speed is unreal, completely different from the slow-moving slimes. He understands that a simple vertical swing will be too hard to land. Gripping his club tighter, he decides he'll have to use a specific skill. Pivoting on his heel, he unleashes the technique, shouting its name, Bash. The attack connects, sending the horned rabbit tumbling away. However, as he watches the creature fall, he realizes the hit wasn't as solid as he'd intended. The rabbit's malevolent eye glares back at him from the ground. The blow had been too shallow. He realizes with a jolt of panic that his stamina bar is gone. The horned rabbit is charging again, and from this distance, he knows he won't be able to land a counterattack in time. His face contorts with desperation as the creature's horn closes in. The creature's horn tears into his shoulder. He lets out a choked grunt as blood splatters from the wound. The searing pain confirms a terrifying thought. This is not a game. He clutches the gushing wound, grimacing as the full force of the injury registers. This is reality. He desperately thinks for it to heal, but nothing happens. He watches the creature, realizing its attack speed is insanely high for what should be a low-level monster. The stakes become terrifyingly clear. If he doesn't land a clean, decisive hit, he's dead. Determined, he plants his feet and raises the bat high, preparing to put every last bit of his strength into a single, final swing. His focus narrows to a razor's edge, the reflection of the charging rabbit filling his vision. He has to draw it in as close as possible to ensure the hit connects. The rabbit lunges, its horn aimed to kill. He grits his teeth and lets out a raw, guttural scream, bracing against the anticipated agony. He unleashes a desperate roar, swinging the bat downwards with every ounce of force he can muster. The bat connects with a sickening crack, smashing directly into the horned rabbit's skull. The creature lies defeated. He stands over it, panting for breath, his gaze fixed and intense. He tells himself not to move, confirming the victory. He beat it, but as he glances at his bleeding shoulder, the reality of how close he came to death sinks in. He reflected on the brutal fight, realizing that if he had mistimed his final move by even a fraction of a second, he would have died. This realization forced him to change his entire mindset. The world, though it looked like a game, was undeniably real. He felt the lingering warmth from the rabbit's body and decided he should take it with him, recalling Karen Tanya's advice that monster drops could be cashed in at the ward office. Following her advice, he spent the next week hunting in the slime nest from morning until night, occasionally taking down rabbits as well. He found that fighting monsters was far more exhilarating than the training ground. After cashing in his drops at the Monster Subjugation Division, he had earned nearly 100,000 yen in just 1 week. With his earnings secured, his next objective came into focus, acquiring a skill sheet, an item that would allow him to check his acquired skills even at home. To afford it, he hunted monsters for another full week. Returning to the office, the clerk, Sato-san, thanked him for his hard work, noting that the office was always grateful for his subjugation efforts. She then presented him with his purchase. "And here is your skill sheet," she said, instructing him to place a single drop of blood inside the designated frame. The clerk explained that once activated, the sheet would display all the skills he currently possessed. She added that he had been a huge help to the ward office over the past 2 weeks, but he humbly replied that they were the ones who should be thanked. She laughed, revealing that he had become something of a celebrity around the office. No one else had ever brought in over 20 kilograms of slime cores every single day. As he processed this, a woman's voice called out a name in disbelief. "Kenzuya? Is that really you, Kenzuya?" He turned to see his mother and father standing behind him, their eyes wide with shock. He stared back, completely stunned, stammering, "Dad? Mom?" His mother, equally bewildered, demanded to know what in the world he was doing there. In the training hall, Kenzuya's mother confronts him, her voice echoing in the large space. She stands between him and his father, demanding that he tell them the truth. His father steps in, explaining that a rumor about a kid bringing in 20 kilograms of slime cores every day had piqued his curiosity, leading him to investigate at the counter. He asks Kenzuya directly if he's in financial trouble, but the boy quickly denies it. He recounts seeing Kenzuya at the counter with Sato-san, confirming the rumor. When asked where he got so many slime cores, Kanzuya insists that he defeated all the slimes by himself. His father's disbelief erupts into anger. He roars at Kanzuya not to lie, declaring that it's impossible for someone with his current skill level to achieve such a thing. The accusation makes Kanzuya recoil. Resigned and hurt, he turns away. He tells his father that if he refuses to believe him, then there is nothing left to discuss. As his father calls his name, Kanzuya walks off, reflecting internally that, ultimately, nothing has changed. Back in his room, he unpacks a bag on his desk. He muses on how his father remains unchanged, even after he himself was reborn in another world and came back from the dead. He stops, his gaze cast downward, a small bandage on his cheek. A quiet question forms in his mind. Is he any different? Setting aside his introspection, he examines a document, confirming that the skill appraisal is complete, just as he thought. All that remains is the skill sheet he purchased and his uniform, ready for the entrance ceremony tomorrow. The document details his impressive list of acquired skills. Stamina recovery, physical ability up, and magic power recovery up are all at level 10, with Bash at level 3 and Heal at level 10. His weapon proficiencies are also listed, though they are much lower. He notes with satisfaction that it didn't take him 3 years just to acquire one skill. His thoughts turn to the system of this world. Here, students typically spend 3 years in middle school just to gain a single skill through dedicated training and classwork. He questions how no one else has discovered his method, noting the apparent absence of a job system. This realization confirms a crucial suspicion. He reflects on his new reality, a world where everything he learned in the game can be put to use. This realization fuels his determination. In this world, he can show his father what he's truly capable of, and even become the ultimate fist king he always dreamed of being. He resolves to grow stronger, little by little, as the day of the entrance ceremony arrives. The day is bright, with cherry blossom petals drifting through the air. At the entrance to the first swordsman middle school, his mother excitedly takes pictures. He asks what she plans to do with all of them, a bit flustered, but she insists on capturing her son's big day. He looks up at the imposing structure, remarking to himself on the sheer size of the school. As they walk, his mother brings up the previous day's events, assuring him that his father is just worried. Kanzuya quietly acknowledges this, just as they are told the entrance ceremony is about to begin. On stage, the student council president, Karen Tanya, congratulates the new students. Kanzuya is taken aback. He recognizes her from the training grounds, but had no idea she held such a position. She warns the students that they will face many trials over the next 3 years, her demeanor completely different from before. Her voice continues over images of students training and fighting. She tells them that through it all, they will help each other and grow by learning from one another. She encourages them to never give up and to believe in themselves, promising that this will allow them to become strong and dependable adventurers. She concludes with a heartfelt prayer for the day when they all become world-saving adventurers, beloved by all. She concludes her welcoming address with a polite bow. Kanzuya watches her, a small smile on his face, thinking to himself how impressive Karen is. As she turns to the crowd, her formal demeanor melts away into a bright, cheerful smile and a peace sign. Before the applause can fade, another figure steps up to the podium. He introduces himself as Todoroki, the principal of First Swordsman Middle School. Without preamble, he poses a question to the assembled students. Are they aware of the school's skill appraisal system? He continues, explaining that over their 3 years, students are expected to acquire skills, a process aided by a full-time, dedicated appraiser on staff. The words hit Kanzuya with force. He stares in wide-eyed shock, the concept of a formal skill appraisal completely new to him. The principal then introduces the appraiser, a tall, composed individual named Mr. Ujihara, who has been brought in for a special session for the new students. With a theatrical flourish, the principal invites any student who feels confident to step forward. Among the crowd, whispers spread. This is recognized as the principal's traditional hazing ritual for freshmen. Into the silence, a single hand rises. It's Kanzuya. The principal acknowledges him, and Kanzuya asks if he might borrow a weapon. Karen watches, stunned, as the principal's expression shifts to one of keen interest. He grants the request, directing Kanzuya to the school's inventory. Moments later, he stands on the stage, a practice sword in hand. He faces the appraiser, Mr. Ujihara, as Principal Todoroki watches from the side, arms folded in anticipation. The appraiser attempts to put him at ease, explaining that this is just the principal's way of firing up the new students. Ujihara adds that they were curious about the accuracy of a skill sheet anyway, making this a perfect test. As Kanzuya processes this, the principal mutters excitedly to himself. Ujihara gives the signal, "Here I go." In an instant, Kanzuya explodes into motion, lunging forward wrapped in an aura of pure, dark energy. His eyes glow with intensity, and the appraiser's composure breaks, their face a mask of utter shock. The attack is over as quickly as it began. Principal Todoroki claps a hand on Kanzuya's shoulder, roaring with laughter at his exceptional swing and youthful vigor. He declares that as of tomorrow, the boy will be a celebrity in the school. Kanzuya, however, seems completely bewildered by the proclamation, while the other students murmur in shock. His celebration is cut short when the appraiser, still visibly shaken, calls out to him. The principal turns, offering a casual apology to Mr. Ujihara and remarking on the inexperience of the new freshman. a comment which only seems to deepen the principal's own confusion. An irate teacher erupts from the crowd, his face contorted in disbelief. He questions how a mere brat, an elementary schooler until recently, could possibly possess a skill. He identifies the ability as Bash, level 2, a fact that only fuels his outrage. Kazuya watches him, his expression unreadable. Ignoring the teacher's tirade, Kazuya turns to Principal Todoroki, who is grimacing in pain. Kazuya calmly tells him to be up, placing a hand on the principal's arm as a gentle light envelopes them. The appraiser, Mr. Ujihara, watches in stunned silence, realizing with dawning horror that Kazuya is casting a high-level healing spell and finally understanding where the surge of mana came from. The healing energy suddenly erupts with explosive force. The blast sends all three of them reeling backwards, shattering the large window of the entrance hall behind them. As the dust settles, Kazuya glances back over his shoulder with a calm demeanor. The principal, now completely healed, lets out a breath of relief before staring at the boy in astonishment, questioning just how many skills he has. The appraiser, equally stunned, identifies the last ability as buff magic. Their questions hang unanswered in the air. Kazuya turns his attention back to the furious teacher in the crowd, pointing a finger directly at him. With a cool, challenging gaze, he demands to know who the man is. During the entrance ceremony, the crowd murmurs about the new student, Kazuya, who possesses not only heal and bash, but buff magic as well. As Kazuya stares forward with intense focus, Mr. Ujihara approaches him from the side, asking Sadoko to accompany him to another room for a moment. In that room, they're joined by the student council president, who expresses his astonishment while Kazuya sips his tea. He admits he never imagined Kazuya would have already acquired 3 skills. Mr. Ujihara, pouring more tea, agrees that it is truly astonishing. Nearby, the large teacher expresses his relief that the student council president was present to help, since the principal was busy dealing with other parents. Karen Tanya thanks the president for his help, and he dismisses it, noting the commotion. She then asks if something specific happened. He explains that all the other parents are demanding to speak with Sadoko-in's guardians. They want to inquire about his educational methods, his homeschooling, and other such details. Karen is taken aback by the news. The conversation shifts as Mr. Ujihara reveals he took the liberty of examining Kazuya's skill sheet. He announces that Kazuya's bash skill has reached level 10. Karen reacts with wide-eyed shock, recalling that Kazuya had told her it was only level 2. Mr. Ujihara clarifies that the discrepancy is likely due to his weapon proficiency level. The student council president elaborates, explaining that since Kazuya typically uses a club and his proficiency with it is level 10, he can use bash at its maximum potential. He posits that the skills level was likely restricted before because his proficiency with other weapons, like a sword, was lower. A diagram illustrates this, showing that a level 5 sword proficiency caps bash at level 5. Kazuya acknowledges the game-like logic, then shifts the topic back to something the principal mentioned earlier. Mr. Ujihara, taking a sip from his cup, recalls the principal's statement. Skill users can choose whether or not to attend the academy. He declares his intent to take advantage of that option. His words provoke a sharp, determined response from Kazuya. With a hardened expression, he states plainly, "I'm not coming to school." Mr. Ujihara calls out his name in surprise. Kazuya, looking away, explains his reasoning to the others. He wants to get stronger, faster, so that he can defeat any monster all by himself. He is met with a steady, knowing gaze from Mr. Ujihara, who delivers a piece of wisdom. You know, he says, no one gets strong all by themselves. He looked at Kazuya, acknowledging his hard work and advanced skills for his age. However, he pointed out that Kazuya was still maturing. That was precisely why he wanted the boy to attend school, to meet different people. He offered a final reassurance that it was okay, that Kazuya could become even stronger there. As the group began to depart, the principal told the student council president that they would talk and then head home, telling Kazuya to be careful on his way. Mr. Ujihara then turned to Kazuya, bidding him farewell with an expectant "see you at school." Kazuya could only manage a quiet, uncertain. He turned and began to walk away alone. From behind, the student council president called out his name, "Kazuya-kun." He told Kazuya that he understood and that they would talk with their father about it once they got home. His solitary walk was interrupted when Karen Tanya caught up to him, asking if he wanted to walk home together. She apologized for the day's events, admitting how surprised she was by his declaration, before directly asking if he truly didn't plan on coming to school. He hesitated, admitting he didn't know for sure and that he planned to discuss it with his parents. But his true intention was clear as he stated his desire to use his time to get stronger. His mind flashed to an image of his current self, barely able to take down a simple one-horned rabbit with a club. The classes at school, he reasoned internally, would simply take too long. He explained that listening to the teachers and seeing everyone's reactions at the ceremony made him realize just how desperate they were to acquire skills. He believed that if they trained for 8 hours a day for a month, they could succeed. However, he thought they can't. Karen listened, her expression growing more serious, as Kazuya's voiceover concluded that for everyone else, such dedication was simply something they couldn't do. He continued, acknowledging that he knew she worked incredibly hard, but he pointed out that most students spend 3 entire years at the academy just to learn a single skill. He clenched his fist, his voice firm with conviction. But they just can't. He watches as Karen Tanya turns to leave, a cheerful smile on her face. She calls out his name, promising to see him at school before heading off. Kazuya acknowledges her, and she apologizes for her earlier strange question. Later, after returning home, his older brother's voice stops him. He wants to ask Kazuya something. Startled, Kazuya hesitantly agrees. He finds himself seated at a table, facing his brother who is examining his skill sheet. His brother asks if the story is true, and Kazuya defiantly confirms it, stating he bought the sheet with money earned from killing slimes. He asks if his brother believes him now, but the older brother confesses he still can't comprehend how he acquired so many skills so quickly. The younger brother explains his method. 8 hours a day, for an entire month, doing nothing but hitting a log. His older brother repeats the words with disbelief. That's all. His other brother, who has been listening, speaks up, expressing his worry. He points out Kazuya's sudden change in behavior, from playing games to obsessively hunting slimes, as if he'd become a different person. Kazuya bristles at the doubt, questioning if they think he's lying or forged the skill sheet. His older brother apologizes, his own frustration showing. He admits that the story is simply too incredible to believe, which is the source of his skepticism. He then makes his demand, his other brother standing silently beside him. He needs to see Kazuya's skills with his own eyes. After a moment of tense silence, Kazuya's expression hardens. He agrees with a single, terse word, fine. Following his agreement, they set out. A vehicle speeds along a country road, heading toward a distant, snow-capped mountain. The car arrives at a large, fenced facility named Aizukenfield. An attendant at the gate stops them, asking to see their certificate. At the entrance to the Aizu training field, a guard confirms the identity of Kazuya's older brother. As the gate is prepared for opening, Kazuya, seated in the car, asks about the document his brother presented. He is told it's a graduation certificate from an adventure school. His brother elaborates, holding up his identification card. He explains that to hunt monsters in a place like this, a party must have at least one member with this certificate to act as an escort. Amateurs, he stresses, can't simply wander into the woods to hunt slimes on their own. With their entry approved, the vehicle rumbles through the heavy gate. The driver quietly resolves to be more careful. Inside, Kazuya's face lights up with excitement as the gate opens fully, while his two brothers watch with stern, focused expressions. The car proceeds into a vast, untamed wilderness, a sprawling landscape dominated by a colossal tree in the distance. Kazuya is awestruck by the magnificent view. As it travels along the dirt path, the massive, scaled leg of an unseen creature stomps down nearby, dwarfing their vehicle. The vehicle comes to a halt. One of the brothers announces their arrival, telling the other that he and their father will now get their gear on. Meanwhile, Kazuya wanders a short distance away, gazing up in disbelief at a long-necked, bird-like monster. He finds the existence of such a facility incredible. His excitement grows as he checks a device displaying information on a local creature, the Oni-horned gull, realizing he can level up much faster here. Suddenly, a voice asks if he is ready, catching him by surprise. He turns to see his brothers, now clad in full suits of advanced combat armor. The elder brother, holding a large firearm, questions Kazuya's decision to use only a sword, stating that guns are the standard for fighting monsters. The other brother agrees, finding the armor cumbersome but necessary. Undeterred, Kazuya accepts the challenge, ready to prove what he can do. He tightened his grip on his sword, his expression hardening with resolve. "Let's go," he stated, ready to face the challenge ahead. In response, one of his heavily armored brothers offered a simple warning. "Be careful." The trio then advanced into the dense woods. As they pushed through the undergrowth, a colossal, clawed foot slammed down onto the path just behind them, its owner lurking unseen in the shadows. As two armored figures escort Kazuya through a dense forest, one of them lays out the rules for survival. He instructs the boy that if he spots a monster, his first priority is to hide, stay perfectly still, and silence his breathing. The man continues, telling him to erase his presence as much as possible. Then, once the creature lets its guard down, he must finish it in a single, decisive strike. Noticing the boy's silence, he turns, asking Kazuya if he is even listening. But Kazuya's attention is elsewhere. He holds up a hand, telling them to wait. His gaze is fixed on the path ahead. He explains that he can faintly hear footsteps, and has for a little while now. More than that, he senses a distinct killing intent approaching. From the shadows, a pack of snarling warwolves emerges. One of the armored men recognizes them, remarking that he's taken them down before during school training exercises. The men open fire, but the beasts move with impossible speed, easily dodging the blasts. The armored man cries out in shock, realizing these are nothing like the ones from school. He frantically warns Kazuya not to shoot, seeing his goal is simply to stay alive. But Kazuya's objective is different. With eyes glowing, he understands his purpose here is to raise his sword proficiency. His companions watch, stunned, as he fells a wolf in a single strike. He turns to the others, taunting them, asking why they're so scared when they were the ones who wanted to eat him. A predatory grin spreads across his face as he activates a skill, Taunt. He muses that until now, enemies never attacked him on sight. With a roar, he challenges the pack. "Come on, you mutts!" The wolves, enraged, leap to attack. He meets their charge head-on. He understands these creatures are different. They are predators looking at him as prey. The situation is simple. It's kill or be killed. As he cuts through the pack, a realization dawns on him. This is a true battle for their very lives. After dispatching another foe, he pauses and looks back at his stunned escorts with a simple, questioning gaze. He stands his ground, sword at the ready, identifying the new, monstrous plant-like creatures that have burst from the earth, Mandraoras. The creature's maw, filled with needle-like teeth, lunges forward with a guttural roar. Seeing this, one of his armored companions desperately shouts for Kazuya to run. His warning comes as the first Mandraora calls for its allies, and more of the beasts erupt from the ground around them. The companion realizes they cannot possibly take on these numbers and must get away immediately. But Kazuya has no intention of running. Activating a skill to boost his physical power, he dashes forward with incredible speed. His companion watches in disbelief, barely able to track his movement as he closes the distance and slashes at the monster. His blade connects in a powerful, sweeping arc, striking the Mandraora with overwhelming force. The Mandraora falls defeated in a single blow. His companion stares, dumbfounded, and quietly wonders if Kazuya already knew how to defeat them. He calmly confirms their suspicions, explaining that it's just like the game. He knows the best way to beat them is to attack before they fully emerge from the ground, calculating that 2 hits with a bash should be enough. His companion can only grunt in stunned silence. The momentary calm is shattered by a deep growl. A new, far more dangerous creature emerges from the woods, a massive grizzly. The armored men are terrified, questioning what a monster of this level is doing so close to the edge of the forest. Without warning, the beast charges, not at Kazuya, but at one of the armored brothers. Kazuya cries out, realizing they're both in danger as the man is struck down. The chaotic scene resolves into a strange tableau. Kazuya is now on the ground, his arm injured. The grizzly stands over him, not with malice, but with what appears to be concern. A brief flash reveals Kazuya falling from a height, the bear positioned below to catch him before letting out a protective roar. He watched as the massive grizzly, his unexpected guardian, moved with shocking speed. With a single, brutal swipe of its claws, it tore through one of the remaining warwolves. The 2 armored figures could only stare in disbelief, one of them muttering, "No way." As the beast fell, the creature then threw its head back and let out a deafening, triumphant roar that echoed across the barren landscape. From his position on the ground, Kazuya winced, realizing he had let his guard down. He couldn't believe a grizzly had appeared out of nowhere, but it had saved him. He felt a strange sensation in his hand, a faint glow of healing magic mending his wounds. Pushing himself to his feet, a wide, blood-splattered grin spread across his face. He turned to his 2 armored companions, holding his sword over his shoulder, and asked them cheerfully how he did. He wondered aloud if he had gotten any stronger. His triumphant smile faded, replaced by a look of confusion as he saw their reactions. Instead of answering, one of the figures rushed forward, wrapping him in a tight, metallic embrace. The man was sobbing uncontrollably, thanking God and crying out for his mother, much to Kazuya's bewilderment. The second armored man reached up and removed his helmet. Tears streamed down the face of a familiar man with glasses. "I'm so glad," he choked out, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm so glad you're safe." Kazuya's eyes widened in utter shock. Dad?" he stammered. The other figure, still hugging him, also removed his helmet, revealing the face of his brother. Kazuya could only stare, his mind reeling. The 3 of them knelt together in a tight embrace amidst the desolation. His father held him close, his voice filled with pride as he told Kazuya, "You've gotten so strong." Outside the school building, a crowd of students gathers to thank Karen Tanya of class 3 to 5 for her guidance. The scene shifts to a training session where Karen spars against a summoned, ethereal dragon. Observing from the sidelines, Mr. Ujihara notes that her sword proficiency is rising steadily, though he seems to hold a reservation. After the session, the student council president enthusiastically congratulates her on her rapidly improving proficiency, though she winces from his hearty pat on the back. Despite the praise, she privately worries, wondering when she will finally acquire skill. As they walk, she overhears other students gossiping about a new student. The gossip continues among a group of boys. One heard that the new student has already learned a skill, and another adds that he's self-taught and even took down a grizzly bear. Walking beside Karen, the president muses that it must all come down to talent. He then mentions that the student in question apparently hasn't come to school since enrolling. Other students overhear this, remarking how nice it must be. Their comments provoke a sharp response from Karen, who turns and insists they are wrong. She declares that Kazuya-kun works hard. Her friends are taken aback, whispering that she must not like hearing bad things about her crush, and that he works harder than anyone. Her passionate defense sways the gossiping students. They quickly reverse course, shouting their support and declaring they are on the president's side. Startled, Karen wonders what just happened. Elsewhere, Kazuya, dressed in a formal suit, pauses. He feels as though someone just called his name. His father, sitting nearby, chuckles that he's a celebrity now. In the background, the clerk teases a flustered Karen about rumors concerning her and Kazuya. In the same room, Principal Todoroki sits across from Mr. Ujihara. The principal announces that with Ujihara's input, they have formalized the school's official policy regarding Kazuya-kun's future. The principal then addresses Kazuya and his father directly. He apologizes for the delay, explaining that he and his wife discussed the matter after being at the Aizukenfield. He then gets to the point, confirming what he's heard. It was indeed Kinzuya who dealt with the grizzly bear. He listens as his father speaks for their family, announcing their decision. They will let Kinzuya do what he wants. His brother admits that he had been skeptical, but after witnessing his younger sibling fighting monsters with his own eyes, he realized Kinzuya was already operating at a level far beyond their influence. The father elaborates with a proud smile, explaining that it was the first time he had ever seen his son so passionate. Though it might seem foolish for a parent, the sight made him incredibly happy. He then turns to the school officials, stating that this should simplify matters. He presents a document to Kinzuya, revealing it to be a special curriculum plan from the student council. The proposal outlines a specialized course for Kinzuya that makes class attendance entirely voluntary. It also includes a letter of recommendation to the Adventurers Guild. His brother reacts in shock, exclaiming that Kinzuya was in elementary school just a short while ago. The principal calmly acknowledges his surprise, but firmly states that they believe this is the best path for Kinzuya to become an adventurer. He continues, explaining frankly that no middle school in Japan can accommodate Kinzuya's needs. The father agrees, adding that they believe this special arrangement is the best way to nurture his son's unique talent. Kinzuya, having listened to the entire proposal, asks a single, crucial question. If he goes, can he get even stronger? His father sighs, accepting his son's path. With resolve, Kinzuya announces, I'll do it. He beams, thanking his father profusely. His father smiles warmly, telling him he can do as he wishes, but there is one condition. The condition is that he must be home for dinner every single night. Kinzuya readily agrees, making a firm promise. With the matter settled, the plan is set to begin the following Sunday. On that day, he arrives at the Shizuoka Adventurers Guild. He stands at the entrance, looking with wide-eyed wonder at the bustling hall filled with seasoned adventurers, his new life about to begin. He stepped into the Adventurers Guild, a place he'd only ever visited in games to accept quests. The real hall was bustling with seasoned warriors, their armor and weapons a stark contrast to his simple hooded jacket. As he took in the sight of so many different types of gear, a guild receptionist with short dark hair approached him. She smiled kindly, asking if the little guy was lost. He mused to himself that he didn't need any armor anyway. Startled from his thoughts, he apologized to the receptionist and confirmed the document she noticed was his. He introduced himself as Kinzuya Sato and presented the official letter of recommendation from his school to become an adventurer. The exchange did not go unnoticed. Across the hall, the loud chatter ceased as several adventurers turned their heads, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Sensing the tension, the receptionist, Shimizu-san, quickly addressed the unseen guild master, apologizing for the disturbance and explaining that the boy was her guest. The onlookers murmured amongst themselves, shocked at the idea of a child becoming an adventurer. From an inner office emerged the guild master himself, a tall man with an eye patch named Jinai. He confirmed Kinzuya's identity, stating the school had already contacted him. Kinzuya politely returned the greeting. Jinai then noted that he'd heard Kinzuya had already acquired 3 skills. Now seated across from the guild master, Kinzuya formally stated his purpose. He came to the guild because he heard it was a place where he could become stronger and he wished to take on quests. Jinai listened, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. He let out a soft laugh, expressing his approval of the boy's spirit. His expression then grew more serious. He explained that the guild was currently dealing with a surge in monster incidents, leaving them with more work than they could handle. While he was always happy to have more talented people join their ranks, there was a significant concern. Jinai leaned forward, his gaze intense. He stated plainly that putting a child with a bright future in harm's way is something that adventurers must never, ever do. He chuckled, remarking that Kinzuya had the air of a little old man, though he quickly dismissed it as a joke. Kinzuya firmly stated that he was not a child. The guild master's expression then shifted, his gaze fixed on the boy as he noted the injury on his ribs, leaving Kinzuya momentarily speechless. Leaning forward, he asked if the injury was from the grizzly. He mused that while no one else had noticed, this boy had. In the background, the receptionist sighed in exasperation, while Kinzuya sat apart, looking downcast. His tone grew stern. He warned Kinzuya that this was not a game. In this life, when you die, you die. That is why, he explained, one must do everything possible to lower the risks before accepting any challenge. His words painted a grim picture of reality. A true adventurer must protect not only themselves, but their comrades as well. Returning his focus to the boy, Jinai stated that Kinzuya was lacking in that department. He conceded, however, that there was little point in simply lecturing him. With a decision made, he declared his intention. He was going to have Kinzuya take a test. Kinzuya looked up, repeating the word test as a question. Jinai smiled, explaining that if Kinzuya could complete a quest without any issues, he would be officially recognized as an adventurer. He then added a condition. He would assign a support partner. Kinzuya, taken aback, insisted that he works alone. Ignoring the protest, Jinai introduced him to a woman standing nearby, identifying her as Miss Oda Mao, the guild's taskment lungs specialist. As the receptionist muttered about the guild master getting cocky, Oda Mao looked down at the boy, internally lamenting that another difficult job had been dumped on her. Jinai then revealed the crucial quest, a cockatrice subjugation. The receptionist voiced her concern that the quest was quite dangerous. Kazuya, however, was anything but deterred. A wide, eager grin spread across his face. G9 noted his enthusiasm, remarking to Oda Mao that the boy seemed raring to go. The creature known as a cockatrice is described as having the body of a rooster from its head down to its feet. Its tail, however, is that of a snake, flicking its forked tongue through the air. These creatures are the target of the current test. A briefing officer holds up a silhouette of the beast, explaining to a group of adventurers that they are extremely ferocious, stand 2 to 3 meters tall, and that the test will be passed upon the subjugation of a single specimen. With the briefing concluded, Kazuya prepares himself at the edge of a wooded area, declaring that he is ready. Nearby, Miss Oda Mao climbs into a cart, wishing him good luck. He turns to Miss Oda Mao and offers his thanks. She warns him that they are now at the border of cockatrice territory, stating that if he intends to turn back, now is his chance. He calmly acknowledges her warning. His casual demeanor seems to irritate her. She tells him this is no place for a child, especially in his attire, and asks if he has a death wish. Kazuya retorts sharply, telling her that since she isn't fighting, she should just focus on carving up the kills later and remain quiet. His bluntness leaves her momentarily stunned before he silences her completely. Sometime later, from a concealed position overlooking a clearing, he spots his quarry. He realizes it's not just one, but an entire flock of cockatrices milling about below. As Miss Oda Mao begins to outline the strategy from a clifftop vantage point to lure one of them out, she's cut short. To her shock, Kazuya and several others leap from the cliff, charging directly into the flock below. He plunges into the fray, facing down the monstrous cockatrices. From a cliff above, Miss Oda Mao watches with wide-eyed intensity, her hand gripping her own weapon as the battle begins. He moves with blinding speed, sidestepping one creature's lunge while declaring it too slow. Without missing a beat, he pivots to the next foe, blade at the ready. Without hesitation, he thrusts his sword forward, striking a cockatrice squarely in the chest with a powerful impact. From her vantage point, Miss Oda Mao watches in disbelief. He had taken down 2 of them in an instant. She mutters to herself, questioning just what kind of fighter he truly is. Down in the battle, Kazuya fights with a look of sheer enjoyment. He knows the cockatrice's weak point is its heart, but it's shielded by powerful chest muscles. His previous strike was blocked, confirming his theory. The entire difficulty of this fight hinges on whether an attack can pierce that defense. Faced with this challenge, his determination only grows. If there is no opening, he resolves, then he will simply make one. To do so, he adjusts his grip, holding the sword with both hands just below the blade for maximum force and precision. With a powerful lunge, he drives the blade deep into the creature's chest. Watching from above, Miss Oda Mao is stunned, wondering if his knowledge and technique are on par with a veteran adventurer, or perhaps even better. Her thoughts are interrupted by a request to provide support for a 12-year-old. She flatly refuses, stating she's tied up with another matter as she continues to watch Kazuya's relentless assault. Her thoughts drifted back to a recent conversation. A man from the guild had approached her, expressing keen interest in a certain prodigy. He confirmed what she had heard. The boy was exceptionally skilled, and they were eager to have him join their ranks. She looked down at the file in her hands, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. He had continued, pointing to a newspaper article. It detailed how the creatures Kazuya defeated were felled by a sword, and the quality of the materials harvested was so high they were expected to fetch premium prices. The man noted that the boy's handiwork was already known, and that he clearly possessed extraordinary power. However, he stressed that teamwork is essential in a guild, which is why he needed her, Oda, to assess him personally. The memory faded, leaving her standing in the present carnage. His words echoed in her mind as she surveyed the field of fallen cockatrices. Her mission was to determine if Kazuya was the kind of person they should allow into the guild. Before she could fully process the thought, Kazuya's voice cut through the silence. He cheerfully instructed her to start carving up the slain beast, announcing that he was going to hunt for more. She could only stare, flustered by his relentless, single-minded advance. She watched him go, a sense of disbelief washing over her. He fought in close-quarters combat without even using a gun. 100 lives wouldn't be enough to survive that way. She wondered if there was anyone in the world who could possibly keep up with him. Her mind conjured an image of the guild hall as she came to a firm conclusion. With his lone wolf approach, he would never make in the guild. It was simply impossible. Standing over the serpentine body of a dead cockatrice, she decided she had seen enough. Acknowledging that she wasn't one to talk, she resolved to report back to her master for the time being. But as she turned, a horrifying sight met her eyes. The creature's severed, snake-like tail lunged at her, mouth agape, and fangs bared. She let out a cry of pure shock. The situation became terrifyingly clear. While Kazuya battled the main body of a cockatrice, its severed tail was moving with a life of its own. A dreadful realization struck her. The tail could move on its own, even if the main body was dead. Panic set in as she remembered her gun was still on the truck, leaving her completely defenseless. She tries to steady her nerves, facing the hissing, severed tail. She tells herself to calm down, reasoning that the body is dead, and this is no different from exterminating a simple snake. Her rationalization is useless. The serpentine tail lunges forward with its fanged maw wide open, causing her to gasp in shock. Panic seizes her as her eyes widen in terror. She screams at the creature to get back. In that instant, a massive shockwave erupts from behind her, completely obliterating the attacking tail in a burst of energy. The force came from Kazuya, who had just swung a massive blade. He looks at his hands, realizing with a jolt that the shockwave was a new skill he just acquired, break attack. He marvels that with this, he can take out enemies in droves. His excitement quickly shifts to concern. He turns to Miss Oda Mao, apologizing for having completely forgotten to deal with the cockatrice tails, and asks if she is hurt. She looks up at him, flustered, insisting it was nothing and that she could have handled it herself. Internally, however, she is stunned, processing the fact that this boy just saved her. Seeing she is unharmed, Kazuya smiles in relief. His relief quickly turns back to exhilaration. He spots more cockatrices in the distance and eagerly announces he's going to take them down before charging off into the field. She watches him go, stunned, as he shouts back that he'll bring a whole bunch more for her to carve up. Left alone, she stares after him, muttering to herself that his power is simply impossible. With practiced efficiency, Miss Oda Mao begins to dismantle the carcass of a cockatrice, her knife poised for a precise cut. Her focus is absolute. Her movements a swift and decisive blur as she expertly strips the creature down to its valuable components. Following her work, Kazuya watches as the processed parts are sorted into large bins, one for feathers and another for bones. Wiping her blade clean, she stands before the final bin filled with meat and declares the job done. Kazuya and the guild receptionist are stunned, with the receptionist exclaiming that dismantling 35 cockatrices in such a short time is amazing. He compliments her skill, but she quickly turns the conversation back to him, pointing out his own shortcomings in the battle. He admits he still has ways to go with mana control. Despite this, he suggests hunting more, but she firmly rejects the idea, stating they are returning to the guild immediately, even as he insists he can still fight with his broken sword. He boldly claims he can push through with sheer guts, but she is unimpressed. She asks how he knew she was aware he had no weapon and was out of mana, thinking to herself that it was obvious after he had used so much. Her tone becomes serious as she advises him to treasure his life more, especially if he intends to join the guild. She warns that his current recklessness will only endanger himself and his future comrades. He looks down, his expression hardening into one of grim resolve. He declares that the only thing that matters to him is getting stronger. He finishes his thought, stating he doesn't care about anything else. Hearing this, her intense gaze softens into one of weary resignation. She dismisses his dramatic statement, telling him he's just going through a cringy phase and reiterates that they're going back. Their conversation is interrupted by the guild master, Jinai, who bursts in shouting about the 35 cockatrices. He excitedly orders them to be put up for auction immediately. Annoyed by the loud commotion, Miss Oda Mao complains, and Kazuya asks if she can get the leader to quiet down. Inside the bustling guild hall, the guild master Jinai leans in close to Kazuya, his expression one of pure delight. He enthusiastically declares that Kazuya has passed, officially accepting him as a rank 2 adventurer and welcoming him to their guild. Kazuya, caught completely off guard, can only stare back in stunned silence. He then spins around to address the entire hall, loudly announcing the arrival of their newest member. In the background, Miss Oda Mao slumps over in exasperation, while other adventurers murmur in surprise, questioning if the new recruit is just a kid. As the commotion grows, Miss Oda Mao decides she has had enough. Declaring that the situation no longer concerns her, she turns to leave. Kazuya watches her go, a flicker of concern on his face, as Jinai mutters that he, too, dislikes such troublesome matters. Her departure triggers a memory for Kazuya. He recalls a woman with long dark hair, wielding a sword. He realizes that Miss Oda Mao reminded him of that person, and the recollection was a difficult one to face. Pulled back to the present, he realizes he never got to properly thank her. He tries to excuse himself to follow, but is immediately surrounded by other guild members, all clamoring with questions about how he defeated so many monsters alone. Through the crowd, a confident voice cuts in. A man with long, light-colored hair approaches Kazuya, identifying him as the promising rookie and extending an offer. The man, flanked by his 2 party members, formally invites Kazuya to join their group. He boasts that they are also ranked 2 and are among the guild's elite in terms of both kills and earnings, explaining that such groups are called parties. From across the room, Shimizu-san watches with a disapproving frown, muttering about how they're claiming to be better than Miss Oda Mao, whom they dismiss as unable to fight. Miss Oda Mao overhears, her expression hardening at the insult. Jinai, however, remains neutral, stating that the choice is ultimately Kazuya's. The recruitment attempt feels uncomfortably familiar to Kazuya, dredging up a memory of being flanked by 2 figures with wide, unsettling smiles. He reflects that this sort of thing happened constantly in the game he used to play. As his level increased, the social dynamics and relationships only grew more complicated. He is reminded of his past, of being approached by countless annoying people. He recalls once spending an entire day just responding to their incessant messages, a tedious and frustrating experience. His present situation feels just like those times. The party leader, sensing his unease, asks if he could see his knife. Kazuya reluctantly presents the small blade. The man looks at it and confirms his suspicions, saying, "I knew it." In a sudden, violent motion, he snatches the knife back and drags the blade across his own forearm, shocking the party leader. The party leader stumbles back in disbelief, calling him crazy and demanding to know what he's doing. Kazuya glares, telling the man not to look down on him just because he's a kid. He holds up his arm, where blood trickles from a shallow cut. He declares that the knife can't even properly cut an arm, questioning how he could possibly be expected to dismantle monsters with it. His extreme act unnerves the party. The leader tells his companions to get out of there, stating they have no right to make fun of Miss Oda. As they retreat, Kazuya watches them go, thinking to himself that they won't be back. Just as the group leaves, Miss Oda Mao rushes to his side, grabbing his injured arm. With a look of panic and fury, she shouts at him, calling him an idiot and asking if he's trying to die. Her frantic cries echo as she calls for someone named Harumi, demanding potions and bandages. A waitress quickly approaches with a basket of supplies, observing that Kazuya is completely out of mana. As she begins to treat the wound, Kazuya asks why she's helping him. Through tears, she screams at him to shut up, admitting she doesn't know why. She cries that if he dies, it's the end. Her desperate plea continues, warning him that if he dies, he won't get any stronger and he'll never see his loved ones again. Kazuya stares, stunned into silence by her raw emotion. She holds him close, her earlier emotional plea still hanging in the air. Kazuya, his arm now bandaged, can only manage a quiet apology. He is stunned into silence, wondering why he couldn't say anything in response to her outburst, his mind flashing back to the party leader telling his crying companion to heal him. As they sit on the floor, the waitress Harumi approaches and thanks Miss Oda Mao for her help. With the immediate crisis over, Oda Mao looks at Kazuya and reassures him that he's okay now. She then looks down at him, her expression shifting to one of intense seriousness. Without preamble, she asks him directly, would he form a party with her? Kazuya looks up, completely taken aback by the sudden and unexpected proposition. His shock quickly melts into pure exhilaration. A wide, confident smile spreads across his face as he declares that with her by his side, he feels he can grow a lot stronger. This earnest and immediate acceptance catches Oda Mao completely off guard, causing her to blush deeply. Her composure shatters. Flustered, she snaps at him to shut up, pointing out that he can't even fight. From nearby, Harumi watches with a knowing smile, thinking they get along quite well. Internally, the new partners are already bickering, with Kazuya declaring he'll be the leader and Oda Mao indignantly questioning why it would possibly be him.